Good evening. I'm Paul Weckler, the principal of New Trier's Northville campus. Thank you for joining us this evening. Certainly not in the format we were hoping for, but we're going to do our best to make this an engaging and helpful session for you. And so I'm going to share my screen, so give me just a second to do that and walk through a presentation with you. Great. You should now see a picture of the beautiful Northville campus. Again, I'm Paul Weckler. This is my 10th year as principal, my 21st year at New Trier. I've loved each and every one of them, and it's a wonderful place to be an educator. I also happen to live in the community. I have a senior daughter at the Winnetka campus, and I actually have a freshman daughter who will be part of the class of 2024. So a very exciting time for me as a parent as well as a principal. So we work with thousands of adolescents in our job, hopefully develop some expertise while we're doing that. And so I just wanted to share some thoughts about the teenager in front of you that you're working with. So we both want the same thing. We want the social, emotional, intellectual growth of each and every student. So we certainly have the same goal. As educators, we know we need to allow them to experience the consequences of their actions, both positive and negative, for that growth. Some of those consequences are going to be really good. They studied hard for a test and they did well. Other ones might be more of a learning experience. But we do know that they need to experience some discomfort, maybe some anxiety to really grow during these years. You know, we want to provide a safe environment where risk-taking is acceptable and encouraged, and make sure we're compassionate when they stumble and we need to help pick them up. You know, we also know that parent anxiety can be unhealthy for children. And so Wendy Mogul, who is a clinical psychologist, has what she calls the 20-minute rule, that you should not worry about your children for any more than 20 minutes a day. So I know I live in the community. I think I've just given a lot of you some extra free time if you'll adhere to that. You know, I've got some other pieces of advice. I think in this community, there's so much success that our children see all around them, and they think it's actually a linear path. And I think for a great majority of us, the success we've experienced was not nearly as linear as what our children may think. So you're looking right now at a failed engineer. I have a master's degree in engineering that I've never used, which my parents often remind me of, but it certainly helped shape who I am and how I see the world, and I do think had a good contribution to my later success as an educator. You know, we need to help our children really develop a sense of responsibility. Simple things like doing chores, engaging with the family, compromising on decisions can be really helpful to them. And so developing their sense of responsibility to their family will help them develop a sense of responsibility to their larger community as they get older. We also know that children need to develop their own autonomy, their competence, their executive functioning skills. And so if we're doing too many things for them, we're robbing them of that opportunity to develop those skills. And so I try to avoid being a helicopter parent. Right now, during these times, you do need to be engaged, make sure they're doing okay, getting on Zoom and those types of things, but try to encourage them to do everything they can on their own, and then you support them and help show them how to do that rather than doing it for them. You know, our children also are watching us. And when they interviewed and asked 1,000 different students, what would you most like to change about your parents' schedules? They said, I just want my mom and dad to be less tired and stressed. And I'm hoping that we can come together as a community and really show them a vision of adulthood that they would want to live, and not that one that's always tired and stressed, but that looks fun and enjoyable. So I think we need to be good role models for them. You know, this is a time of great personal growth for your teenager. And so I would say worry less about getting peak performance right now and more about preparing them for life. I honestly care a lot more about what your child's going to be like when they're 25 or 35 than I do how they're doing right now in their class or what their last grade was. I think one of the biggest tensions I feel between families and the school sometimes is kind of short-term goals versus long-term goals. And I feel the school really looks at the long-term to try to get the very best out of the kid over maybe the 4-year experience rather than what's the very best thing we can do right now. Sometimes there's some learning lessons that we've got to encourage. You know, a piece of advice that I read I found very helpful is think of children much more like wildflowers than bonsai trees. So wildflowers need a few simple ingredients to grow, some water, some sunshine, probably some good soil. Um, Bonsai trees need constant pruning and attention to look the way they do. And most children are much more like wildflowers. They need unconditional love, they need structure, they need support, but they hardly need our constant attention and pruning. They really need time on their own to grow. You know, the children this age are really trying to answer the question, who am I? This is a big thing for them. Most of us probably accepted our answer to that quite a long time ago. I know I certainly did. But this is a big struggle for them. They're trying to define their identity. This quote really helps bring that to light. So my desperation for her support was in constant tension with my desperation for independence and freedom. I projected apathy about her feelings, but I wanted nothing more than to make her proud. So that's a quote from the book, The Other Wes Moore, which is a really good book overall. His writing about his mother at the time when he was a teenager, I think really captures the spirit. They really want to please us. They really want us to be proud of them, but they certainly don't want to show that. And they don't have this self-reflection to say, hey, mom, dad, I just need some time to myself to think, to figure out maybe who I am and what I need to explore or do. So they'll probably be very short with you, probably give you a lot less affection than they used to. And that's just part of them being an adolescent. They have what I call the interesting perception of reality. How they look, how smart they are, what everybody else is doing, they don't necessarily have a really good grasp of. They might say, hey, I'm doing great in school. I got a couple A's, but then I forgot to turn in my English paper and I got a C- on my last world history test. And in their mind, well, I know how to do well. I do have a couple A's, so I've got this under control. When something like that happens, try not to get really angry at them. Try to help them learn from their experiences. How can you help them grow? How can you help them, again, be the version of themselves you want them to be when they graduate high school or when they're in their 20s? You know, they do need unconditional love, sometimes to make it hard to give it to them based on their standoffishness, but listen to them, help them resolve their own issues, provide them constant support, let them know you're there for them so that when they hit a tough time, you're the person they actually want to go to get help. So my final thoughts, I know what I've described doesn't sound quite ideal, but it really is a fun time to be a parent. They're going to amaze you with their energy and curiosity. They get so excited for new experiences. They're going to talk to you about those, and that's going to be awesome. And they really are going to grow. The growth this year is often one of the very biggest. That first year of high school is a big step. So they're going to grow tremendously socially, emotionally, intellectually, and then certainly over the 4-year experience. The person graduating in 4 years is really going to be a truly unique and awesome human being who's going to look so different than the freshman that you see in front of you right now. So thanks again for your attention. We're going to do everything we can to make this a great year in these abnormal times. You know, it's going to be is a fun time for us supporting your child and then learning along with them how to make this the most successful way we can educate children. And with that, Gail Gamrath, our assistant principal, will have the next part.
Good evening. I'm Gail Gamrath, and I'm your assistant principal here at Northfield. Congratulations on being a parent of a freshman at New Trier. Your child has made it through almost their first week of high school. And whether this is your oldest child, you have a lot of Trevians at the dinner table, or my favorite group, those of you who have kids off the payroll, each child brings their strengths and challenges to parents throughout their high school years. At this point, you've heard a lot of school administrators talk, and please know that I come at you this evening about half as an educator and half mom. It is impossible for me not to, and they really are the same things in a lot of ways. As Paul said, this is an exciting time for your freshman son or daughter. I can say it's a great pleasure to work with them. This is my 27th year at New Trier, and I've now embraced the fact that I've spent half my life walking the halls. My husband also works here, and we share a real love for this school, and there's a lot of blue and green in our closet. It's really fun to work with Paul Weckler, Mark Howard, Sue Ellen Hawk, and the team on a campus that I believe is a wonderful place to start the foundation of becoming a high school student. For the decade before becoming an AP, I was an advisor chair working in the area of discipline. It was always an interesting day as I saw kids for many different reasons. The students here are really quite wonderful. Over and over, I was impressed with the conversations we have and their ability to reflect on their actions, always aiming to put myself in their shoes and trying to figure out why they make the decisions they do. Sometimes it was obvious, and other times it was hard to figure, but I was always hoping that we would all learn something from it. Sometimes after I had to dole out a Saturday school or a morning detention, I'd actually hear when they were leaving, "Thank you, Mrs. Gamerath. Have a nice day." Then I thought, how do I get these kids to spend a little time with my own kids? This is my 18th year as a mom, and my daughter, we just brought her down to school last week. I miss her, but at the same time, I really hope for all of us she's not home in just a matter of weeks. I also have twin sons starting their freshman year at a nearby high school, so I can relate to a lot of what is going on for our kids during this unusual start to a year. I think when people our age reflect back on their high school years, it is the small moments, the level of involvement, and the relationships with teachers and classmates that matters the most and make people feel like high school was a good success. I think it's safe to say no one wants their child to have a mediocre high school experience. We all want them to be successful here, make some good friends, and hopefully learn a thing or two so they are ready to leave us in a few short, really too short, years. I sense there's a bit of anxiety for all of us as we are able to control less and less of our kids' lives as they forge on their own paths. This is natural, and we just really have to get out of their way in most circumstances and not be too afraid to parent in others. It is tough, and after having gone through the college process with my daughter, my own goals have shifted, whereas I used to worry about my kids' effort level and focus on grades so that they can have options and get into a school of a choice, but I also just want them now to be happy and have options once they finish college. And way up there now is not wanting to break the bank for any of us. I really want to college or to retire to college, Colorado someday. And I really don't want them eating ramen noodles for the rest of their life because of college debt. And I have to trust there's a pathway there for all of our kids. Freshman year can be a tough time on kids as almost all of them are experiencing a shift in identity. This can be a frightening time for them and sometimes hard for us as parents to watch. There are so many things coming at these kids and so many things they have to adjust to. New academics and different ways to achieve grades than they are used to. A jockeying for a new social structure and identity within. They are changing, their friends are changing, and social media, validation or not, is documenting everything. It's tough to be them right now. So what can we as adults do to help them? First of all, I believe we have to help to control the amount of things that they put on their plate. As I say to kids, we have a good and a tough problem in this community. No longer is it the stereotypical parent pressuring their kids to do it all. They are pushing themselves by constantly comparing themselves to each other. They see other kids have passions or paths and taking this level class or that, and they feel like they should be doing more, to the point where it never feels like enough. And I do think it's our job as parents to help control that. It's difficult to stop them from wanting to try everything and work hard, and they are so motivated, but we also know they don't have the life experience picture that if you do too much, you don't do anything right at all. Balance is so key. So if they have a rough patch, a rough class, they have a little wiggle room to get back on their feet. Another thing we can do is give them the right tools. Perhaps the best thing you can give them is the opportunity to sleep. Our students need more sleep. I think our parents need more sleep too, but that's another conversation. You're on your phone to figure out how to accomplish that because I'm still trying to figure this out with my own kids. I do know that there are no phones in their rooms after a certain hour or while they're doing homework. We had a great expert in adolescence, Lisa Demora, come as a fan speaker this year and work with some of our female advisors. This was her major point: help them get the phones out of their hands at least some of the time. They are addicted, and there's really no need for a phone to be with them while they're studying. I heard once from one of our wise senior helpers that she leaves her phone in the kitchen and rewards herself with study breaks to check it. If they tell you they need it as an alarm clock and they have to sleep with it, I'll tell you to go buy an alarm clock down the road at Target for $10. Another question is, how much do we monitor? This is a tough one. I just have to say it must be really tough for some kids to have their parents have a play-by-play on what they are doing. Now they are actually going to school in our own kitchens. Each student is different, but I think I'd prefer my situation in the 1980s when I had a whole couple of months to get that grade back up before my parents saw anything. And for the most part, we all turned out okay. And I'm also super glad they didn't have Find My Friends. Please stay away when your kids are on Zoom. Give them some privacy to be who they can be as students without feeling like someone is watching beyond the virtual classroom they're already in. Having watched freshmen for a while, I believe those who may have the hardest time this year are those who have never seen anything lower than an A- without much effort. I don't worry about the kids getting C's. Those are the kids telling me to have a good day. But I think the straight A students make that their identity. It's their identity for themselves. It's your identity for them is that of a straight A student. And it's really hard for some of them to be challenged more. The middle school mentality, for better for worse, is to allow kids to do things over, take tests over, and improve on their grades. That is not the case here, and it's really hard when they start receiving some tougher grades. The reality is that these are all opportunities for growth. We want our kids to be challenged and learn how to work through it on their own. One of the best of developmental books I've read is How to Raise an Adult by Julia Lythcott-Haims. It is a wonderful parenting book, and if I had more time, I'd run a parent book group on it. She speaks to this, and there's a great list. I know it's on page 81 because I refer back to it a lot. And as the former dean of students at Stanford, she states the 8 practical things they should know before going off to college and how we as parents totally mess it up for them. Some wise person once asked me if I talked to my daughter with an agenda, something they can see laser right through. She then said, ask yourself, to what end? To what end am I on her for something? What am I worried about? And then decide what battle to pick. Like when I'm on her about her room and the socks on the floor. I may be thinking that she's going to be a horrible, messy college roommate. No one will ever want to live with her, marry her. She'll never have a family. I'll never get grandkids. And the holidays are going to be boring for the rest of my life. Whereas she's thinking, I have to get my college apps done. I have to study for some tests and write some papers. I have to have some time to obsess about the person I have a crush on, memorize lines for a play, and snap streak 50 people, or my friends will think I'm ignoring them and I won't have plans for the weekend. So Mom, the socks don't really matter to me. You can insert any one thing we are on our kids about. What is the reason we are saying the things that just fly out of our mouths all the time? And what is important to them, and what is important to us, and what is the ultimate end goal? I think one of New Trier's goals for students while they're here is to prepare them for when they leave here. We work a lot on this campus to try to get them comfortable going to a teacher for help, being a self-advocate, asking for better understanding, and trying to get them to be a little more self-assured. We're all here to help. We have so many resources at this school, and yes, we are big, but the advisor system is your first line to checking in with a concern or just keeping in touch. We talk and meet with families all the time to look at how things are going for your kids. I believe we do this well. We are here for you and your kids because no one has high school totally figured out. Even the kids or families that look like they have it figured out don't, believe me. High school should be a great time, not something to survive or sleepwalk through. Let's help all of our freshmen make it so they all reflect on this journey with a smile. Please reach out to me if you feel I can help in any way. I'd like to introduce now Mark Howard and Sue Ellen Hawk, your awesome advisor chairs. Have a great night.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Howard, the Freshman Boys Advisor Chair at the Northfield campus. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend tonight's Parent Advisor Night. This is a unique time, to say the least. However, I'm confident our advisors can adapt to any situation we're in. I've worked at New Trier for over 19 years, and I've been in this role for almost a decade. Overseeing this program is an honor I don't take lightly. You may have heard the program being described as the heart and soul of New Trier. To summarize kind of what that means is that the advisory program makes a large school feel small. I know that entering a school of this size can be overwhelming for students and parents, but just be confident that your son will not be lost within this institution. This pandemic has caused all of us to adjust, recenter our lives and priorities. I believe this program is even more essential during this uncertain time. We have 4,000 students, all of which are starting remotely. Who knows when that's going to change? Freshmen and freshman parents may feel a level of anxiety about how this will go and who's going to keep a close eye on their student. Well, your advisor is that person. He's the central figure in your student's school life. He's also the bridge between the school and home. So please utilize them for whatever concerns you may have. They might not know all the answers, but they will be able to point you in the right direction. We have 40 advisors who want to be in this role, and their passion is helping kids transition to high school. The advisor is the first point of contact within the school for teachers. So if a teacher has a concern about a kid, they're going to first call the advisor. And the advisor is also your first point of contact if you have concerns about how things are going. They will help them transition to New Trier and support them in any way they can. Now, I'm a parent as well. I have a high school sophomore and a 7-year-old who just started 2nd grade. It's very different. So I'm also very concerned about their experiences this year. And I often wonder if they're ever going to experience some sense of normalcy at home and within school. That being said, I'm very confident that the teachers in their lives will step up and make this year meaningful and special in their own way. Tonight, you're going to be introduced to your son's advisor. The goal of tonight is simple. We want the relationship between you and the advisor to start. Many of you are veteran New Trier parents. This journey may be different than your first or second child who went through New Trier. Your children are different, their needs are different, and the advisor is different. One student's path could look very different than the other, so I hope tonight sparks a very positive relationship between New Trier and your home. Please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions or concerns. Thank you. Have a good night.